Testing, 1, 2. I think we're ready. Can you hear me okay? Oh, good, because I can turn this up louder if I need to. But anyway, welcome to 2023's Marching Band Showcase. We have some exciting things to present to you tonight. I'm so glad to see such a big crowd here. This is really cool. Thank you for coming out. It's a beautiful night for marching band. A little Christmas in the air, and we can go ahead and get started here. So anyway, this is this year's edition of the Eureka High School Marching Band. Currently, we've competed in 4 competitions, and we've come out on top of our class in each one of the 4, which is exciting. Thank you. They work really, really hard, and they do such a great job. It's nice to see them achieve at the level they're achieving. Anyway, we're supposed to talk a little bit about the show, and so I will do that. We're going to jump around and do a couple of things for you and not do a full run just yet, just to kind of illustrate some of the ideas behind what the show is. But essentially, last spring, myself, Mr. Weiland, my assistant, who is not able to be here tonight, he's babysitting his daughter, and our color guard coach, Carrie Marino, who's not here tonight. She's working with Muhammad's guard tonight. This is their weekly rehearsal night. We try to find a show that's we think is really good and suitable for the band that we'll have. And we listen to several. I mean, we're talking in 30, 40, almost 50 shows, going through things, trying to find which one we feel is the right one. And usually we listen to a bunch of them, and then all of a sudden we find one that's like, that's the one. That's the one we have to do. But we never found that. So we just sort of bantered some ideas around, and I was having dinner with a friend who's a band director at Washington, and we were talking about different shows, and he mentioned the fact that, you know, such and such band, you know, when they finished the season, they felt they had checked all the boxes and everything had been, you know, all the things that they wanted to accomplish or feature that they got into their show. And I thought, okay, checking all the boxes. So what if we did a show that was simply explaining to the audience what the typical elements are of a marching show that everybody does, and we just explain it to everybody, which was kind of a cool idea, and they thought that was kind of a cool idea too. But you know, I realized I'd have to write it, which is fine, but we also would have to have somebody narrate it, because you know, and we're not going to have to like get somebody to record it and then, you know, put those WAV files into the computer and then trip them with the keyboard. That's too dicey, and it takes up too much memory, and that thing can crash, and that's not such a great idea. So it had to be a live narrator. Well, why don't we have a live narrator on the field and moving around and interacting with the band as this progresses? Well, that's kind of a neat idea. So we asked Lexi Chalicombe if she'd be interested in doing that, and she was all on board for doing that. And so the idea just kind of took root, and I started writing some music to go for it, and we recycled some ideas from previous compositions and a show back about 13 years ago, which is in the second part. But anyway, it just sort of grew. And then one day we're watching a video in class, and it's on the effect of sound on matter, which is the science of cymatics, and it's a cool video. It's Nigel Stanford, who's a composer out in New Zealand, writes all this techno music. It's really cool. And there's this ending part where it has a cool keyboard pattern, and they fire up this Tesla coil, and he puts on a Faraday suit, and he kind of moves around, and that Tesla coil electrocutes him, but it doesn't really electrocute him because he has a Faraday suit on, and the music is just mesmerizing. I thought this would be cool to put at the end of the show, because honestly, I was like dry out of ideas. I didn't know how to end it. So this is what we're going to do. So I emailed Nigel. I'm like, how much would it cost just to use this little section of your piece for, you know, marching band? Because he's from New Zealand, and I don't know what he knows about marching band, probably zero. So I tried to explain to him what it was about, and he just sent me a simple response and said, just use it. Sweet. Okay, so I didn't have to pay any licensing, which is so awesome. He's such a cool guy to let us do that. So that's what happens in the last part of the show. In fact, Natalie, if you guys would move it down to that last patch. Nat, could you play that opening keyboard intro? Because this is Nigel's music. 1, 2, and. And you can cut that. Yeah, good. Yeah, and it was. We tried to find a voice that matches, or a patch, a voice for the keyboard that matches that his actual performance in that video, so that it matches that. Anyway, this has been really fun to put together, and it allows us to be as creative as we want to be, and we can be silly as we want to be, or serious as we want to be. And it's evolved over the fall. The second part of the show changed. The focus of the narration changed over the course of the fall to something that's more relatable to these guys and what they experience, and it's more impactful. And I think that when we changed that at a Saturday rehearsal, both me and Mr. Weiland got goosebumps. You know, the hair starts to raise up on our arm, like, this is really cool, this is going to work. So anyway, what I would like to do is do the opening band, and I'd like you to take them through to the big hit, okay? So Lexi's going to explain what happens in a typical show, right? She's just going to explain this, and it's just kind of fun to do, and it's been very well received. Audiences everywhere love to go hear this. They want to see what we're doing, and that's what we'll do. So this is just the first segment. You'll notice that the band does a lot of visual work at the beginning, and that's something that we try to really instill in all of our performances, the visual aspect, the performance aspect when we're not playing. Okay, so I'm going to introduce our drum major, Allison Wetzler. She's going to give her salute, and then I'd like the band, I'd like you to go through the beginning, through the big hit, right, and we stop at that point, right, dump, 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 and we're going to stop there. Okay, so here we go.
My name is Lexi, and welcome to our performance of the show. We're so happy you're here. Are you ready? Let's get started. We're starting like everyone does with a part one. A part one usually consists of something interesting happening down here in the pit. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm at the frontline percussion. Next, we need a change in texture for variety. So let's add some instruments. All this tension is building up to what we've all been waiting for. The big hit.
Introduction, and we want Lexi to relate to the audience and bring them into the performance, right? To bring them into the performance. So, band, go ahead and put yourself at the listen to the pit at the end of the first movement, please. Okay, so we want that interaction, right? We want the audience to feel like they're part of what we do and connected to our performance, right? So here we are at the end of the first part. Okay, and this is where we go into the second part, the ballad, and you'll notice that the band puts their finger up as the different parts go, right? Because that's our first prop, that's our tie-in, right? Part one. Part two is the part about the teenage relation to all of this, and how they live their lives and how they perceive things sometimes, and how we express that. So this is a transition, and you'd be interested to know that we rebuilt the visual program to this, I think 3 times. So we taught the original drill, and it's by Greg Bim from Marian Catholic, which is great drill, but it seemed like there was too much going on. So Mr. Ryland said we need to recast or redo it. So he came up with a different way. Works great, but then it didn't quite work as well as we thought. So we redid it again, and we redid it again. So we're always changing and modifying to make it more expressive. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that transition into part 2, and let's do through the clarinet feature. Okay, and we'll do the trumpet cascade, and then we'll stop. Okay, so through the trumpet cascade, then we'll stop. Okay, so Allie, they're yours. Okay, listen to the pit.
How awesome was that? Now we're on to part 2, where usually the mood changes and the show becomes a little more serious in tone. Being a teenager is not always as easy and carefree as it seems. You never know if what you say or what you do will be judged by others.
All right, so that's the opening through the second area, and that narration partly is Lexi's contribution, because it's been so cool to have her be a part of this show. And I've told everybody, like all the band directors that talk to me at these shows and stuff, your show is so creative, it's so cool, you know. And I said, well, thank you. And they said, your narrator sounds like she should be performing at Disney World. And I'm like, well, yeah, because she's that good. But Lexi is, you know, when we talk about this idea, like, what is the idea we want to do here? What is it that matters to teenagers, or what do they experience? And she came up with that idea of, you know, wanting to speak our mind and wanting to be involved, but then somebody says something, it's like we're judged for what we say, and it makes us not want to do that, right? It makes us not want to be involved. I'm like, well, that's real. So we can work with that. And so part of that narration is just her improvising as we went and rehearsed. So it's like, I like that phrase, let's do that. Or I can say, could we phrase this different, put a different emotion on this word to make it feel differently? And she'll come up with those things. I mean, because she's a professional, she rehearsed all of her lines beforehand, constantly going over all the different ideas and ways to present the narration. So it's just been so much fun to have her do this. Okay, band, go ahead and put yourself, please, at go ahead and come over here and put yourself at letter N. Would you please put yourself at letter N? So this part of the song does change a little bit. Okay, Mr. Weiland always loves to add more beats to things, right? If we have a big chord, if we can hold it out longer, that's great, right? And make it go somewhere, because it's more impactful, it has more weight, and it's a bigger statement, right? So we've added some things to what we do, added some lengths to these chords to make so it's different than what I arranged right at first, but it makes it better. That's what collaboration is like, this is a great idea. Yeah, I should have done it this way before, but I never really thought about it. So we do it, right? So let's play letter N and go ahead and finish the second part, okay? Now, letter N, they don't know this, but which I sort of like save this for tonight, but this part of the show comes from a piece I wrote for concert band that came out this year or something like that, but it's called In Solitude. And it was written because, you know, back in 2020, there were lots of times when there were kids that were out, they were quarantined, and they weren't sick. They were just forced because they were next to somebody, and somebody said they were next to me, and they had to go away and couldn't be in school for 10 days, and then they had to come back. And so you do all these meetings with them over video, you know, and they're just there, and they're just alone, right? And and teenagers need each other, you know, as much as they probably wouldn't admit it. They need that interaction, and that's the one thing I noticed, is that they just, it was you know, solitude sometimes is a good thing, right? As a composer, I like solitude because I have to be able to have that to formulate, right? That's my time with music. But when you're forced into solitude, sometimes that's not a good thing, right? So this portion at letter N comes from part of that piece. So anyway, let's play letter N and take it out through the end of part 2, and then we'll go back and we'll do a complete run, okay? So here's N, please. Go ahead, Allie. Part 2 ends with a guard feature, and some of it is to silent counts. That's something that Carrie always likes to have inserted into a show if we can, and so it made sense to insert it in there at that time. So it's connected to that theme from the second part. From there, it goes on to the third part, which is very aggressive, and you'll see it in the visual presentation and the music, and at the end we do our pop tune by Nigel Stanford, and all the way through Lexi takes us through that. Okay, band, go ahead and put yourself back at opening set, and we'll do a complete performance of the show. I do have to say that it was fun over the spring when people would ask me, well, what's the show for next year? I said, the show. And then they would, like, you know, cock their head and look at me like, well, what is it? It's the show. What does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means. And then I would kind of give them a little, you know, it's going to be narrated, and it's going to just show all the different things that is a typical marching band show. So we, you know, we're not making fun of it. We're just sort of, except for that joke, you know, with the frontline percussion, that's an in-purpose joke. And it's, some audiences are different, right? You know, but sometimes there was, like, I can't remember what show it was. There was one person that just totally got it, and they were just laughing like crazy. You know, there's the only person, but it's fun, right? And because the percussion, they don't like being, you know, the pit is sort of like, you know, the pit, but in the business it's called the front line, right? Because, you know, the business is important and all that stuff, and, you know, it's the front line. It's not the pit. It's the front line. You know, so you don't call them the pit. So it's just sort of an in-joke. We could do more of that, but we just wanted to outline what goes on and have fun. So I hope you enjoy this presentation. This is the complete show all the way through. We hope you can come out on Saturday to see us at ISU at 7:48 in the morning. Yeah, we're making progress. We're the 4th band this year instead of the 3rd. So we're slowly making progress, but I do like to go early because all of our cross-country runners can play, and then they can hop in a car and they can go run regionals, you know, and go win that like they always do, and then they can do both, right? It's really hard when we perform later, like at 8:45 or 9, and then it's like runners, man, it's because we have our top cross-country runners are like trumpets and snare drum, Brady. We really need those guys. We really need them. So that list came out, and I was secretly cheering. Yes, 7:48. I can work with that. That's a good thing. We have a football game Friday night, right? Senior night. So we have 13 seniors that we get to honor on senior night, and that's going to be hard because, you know, this is their first last, right? And, you know, but they have a great band to show for it, and they've worked really hard, and they're really, really good leaders. So I'm really proud of what they've done with this group. So we have that on Friday night, and hopefully you can come and see us on Saturday morning, and hopefully it's good enough to do it one more time and play in finals. So we'll, it's a hard road. Everything down there is very difficult, and you just never know what's going to happen, but these kids are, without a doubt, going to do a great job, because we're better tonight than we were on Saturday. So anyway, this is the show under the direction of Allie Wetzler, drum major, presented by narrator Lexi Chalicombe, and for your enjoyment, please.
Hey everyone, my name is Lexi and welcome to our performance of The Show. We're so happy you're here. Are you ready? Let's get started. We're starting like everyone does with a part one. A part one usually consists of something interesting happening down here in the pit. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant the frontline percussion. Next, we need a change of texture for variety. So let's add some instruments. All this tension is building up to what we've all been waiting for. The big hit. Okay, now we transition to our instrument features. First, the woodwinds. How about some brass? Hey, percussion, let's go! After all that, it's time for the music to develop and change with new chords and new ideas. Can you hear it? Something's coming. What could it be? The big hit with the big ending. How awesome was that? Now we're on to part two, where usually the mood changes and the show becomes a little more serious in tone. Being a teenager is not always as easy and carefree as it seems. You never know if what you say or what you do will be judged by others. When all you really want is to be found. Isn't the color guard amazing? Resume march. All right, now that we're on to part 3, it's time for some high energy music and some sweet visual skills too. Let's all push that power button right now. Let's start part 4. Well, what is a marching band show without some pop music, right? We're going to play one of our favorites for you now, Cymatics by Nigel Stanford. How amazing is it that all sound and music resonates with and through everyone and everything? That's why music is so special. It moves us, it touches our hearts, and feeds our souls. And doesn't this beautiful groove make you want to move? Well, here's your chance. Come on! Now it's time to wrap things up. I think we've checked all the boxes for a great show, don't you?
And go ahead and relax for a moment. Good job, good job. So there's even changes in the show than from what we did on Saturday, based on judges' commentary and things like that. So it's ever evolving, which is fun. It's fun being creative and always changing, and it's fun having a band that always is on board for all of that all the time. So picture time, right? We have to get a picture of seniors, right? I need a picture with you guys. And then we can take section pictures, and you can have buddy pictures with Mr. Morenga, and you can take a picture by any prop that you want, power button 2023, whatever it is, okay? And he's here until you get all your pictures done, right? Then change out and get some sleep tonight, right? Because we have rehearsal tomorrow and all that other stuff. I want to thank you all for coming out this evening. It's a special night. We get to do this for the community, and the support for our band is wonderful, and it makes me very happy, makes my heart very happy. So you guys are great, and we hope to see you again in 24, because we'll do another one of these. But for now, this is my top priority. So thank you for coming, appreciate it very much. Good night. Parents, if you want to come down and take pictures too, you can do that, right? You can do that, so we all got phones. So go ahead and do that, yeah? Very cool. Yeah, band, so figure it out.